Okay, so get this. We're going deep into soulmate drawings today.
Soulmate drawings.
Yeah, those things are
Right.
like popping up everywhere. And honestly, I'm really curious about them.
I can see why.
Yeah, and I bet our listeners are too. So we've got this article here. It's called Debunking Myths About Psychics, Understanding Intuitive Arts and Realistic Expectations.
Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah, and it's got a lot of information about psychic services in general, but we're going to kind of like zero in on soulmate drawings specifically today.
Okay.
So the big question is, are these drawings like a magical window into your future love life? Or is there maybe something else going on?
Yeah, I think that's what everyone wants to know.
I know, right?
And, this article makes a point right away that I think is super interesting. It says that a lot of what we think of as psychic ability is actually rooted in something we all have, really, human intuition and emotional intelligence.
Ooh, so it's less about like mystical powers and more about being really good at reading people?
Exactly. Think of those like really skilled practitioners, right? They're super perceptive.
Yeah.
They're picking up on those like tiny little cues that most people completely miss,
Oh, yeah.
like a little shift in your posture or a fleeting, I don't know, micro expression, or even just like the tone of someone's voice.
Yeah.
It's like they're almost like emotional detectives.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about soulmate drawings specifically, because I think, and maybe I'm not alone here,
Right.
a lot of people picture, like seeing a picture of their actual soulmate, like a photograph.
Right. Like here's the person you're going to end up with.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's a very common misconception.
Right.
Yeah, because what's interesting about these drawings is that they're not meant to be literal portraits at all.
Oh, okay.
They're more like symbolic representations, like almost like a visual metaphor
Interesting.
for the kind of relationship that you're maybe seeking or the kind of energy that you're putting out into the world romantically.
Okay, so if it's not like a literal picture of, quote, the one,
Right.
then what can you actually gain from these drawings? Because the article mentions a few times that the real value is like emotional insight and self-reflection.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, imagine, right, a skilled intuitive artist, let's say, is able to see certain patterns in your energy field.
Okay.
Right. Things that maybe reflect your typical relationship dynamics. So, for example, maybe you tend to, I don't know, attract partners that are emotionally unavailable, or maybe you have like a fear of commitment that shows up in your drawings somehow.
Wow, that's so interesting. So
Yeah.
it's almost like the drawings can like highlight those blind spots in your love life.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And by becoming more aware of these patterns,
Yeah.
you can start to make more conscious choices to like change them, right?
That makes sense.
And so in a way, it's very similar to therapy.
Oh, yeah.
It's about gaining self-awareness.
Right.
And then using that new knowledge
Yeah.
to hopefully create some positive change.
So less about like predicting the future and more about understanding yourself.
That's a great way to put it.
And the article actually specifically mentions that, these drawings are really about visualizing your readiness for a relationship and exploring your usual relationship patterns,
Yeah,
the good and the bad.
for sure.
And then also getting a visual representation of the qualities that you desire in a partner.
Absolutely.
But most importantly, it seems like it's about encouraging self-love
Right.
and personal growth.
Yeah.
That's kind of a big theme throughout the article.
Yeah, it's not about finding the one in a drawing.
Yeah.
It's about like becoming the best version of yourself
Hmm.
and understanding what you really want in a relationship.
Right. It's about using those drawings as a kind of a mirror to
Exactly.
reflect on your own desires and patterns.
You got it.
That makes a lot of sense. But, let's be real for a second, because the article also emphasizes the importance of like realistic expectations.
Oh, absolutely.
Going into this.
Yeah, well, these drawings can be incredibly insightful.
Yeah.
They're not like magical solutions.
Right.
They can't predict your future.
Yeah.
They can't guarantee you'll find a partner or replace professional therapy
Right.
or medical advice.
Right. And I imagine there are some red flags to watch out for as well, right?
For sure.
Like the article mentions, practitioners who make like wild claims about the future or demand like outrageous fees for things like curse removal.
Yeah, those are definitely like warning signs.
Yeah.
You want to be like very discerning about who you choose to work with.
For sure.
Like any field.
Yeah.
There are ethical practitioners, and then unfortunately there are those who might try to take advantage
The
of,
vulnerable people.
yeah, of people's hopes and vulnerabilities. Exactly.
So it's about being like a savvy consumer and using your best judgment.
Absolutely.
Okay, now this is where it gets even more interesting, I think, because the article goes on to talk about like the psychology behind all of this,
Mm.
like things like cold reading and the placebo effect.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's so fascinating to me about this is how like these practices can have a real impact.
Yeah.
Even if we put aside any claims of like supernatural abilities.
I agree.
So let's talk about cold reading for a second, because have you ever like seen one of those mentalists on stage?
Well, yeah, of course.
Who like seems to know incredibly personal things about audience members.
Right. It's like, how do they know that?
It's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And while there are definitely, skilled mentalists out there,
Of course, yeah.
a lot of what they do is based on cold reading,
Right.
which is basically the art of making general statements that could apply to like almost anyone.
A lot of people, yeah.
Yeah, but because we as humans tend to like focus on the stuff that resonates with us, it feels incredibly personal.
Yeah, we kind of filter out the things that don't fit.
Exactly. So it's like they're tapping into these like universal human experiences,
Yeah.
but making it seem like they have this like special insight.
Oh,
And then on top of that, there's also the placebo effect,
right.
which to me shows us how powerful belief can actually be.
It's amazing.
Because simply believing something can create real changes.
Yeah.
Our thoughts and feelings and behaviors.
You're absolutely right.
That makes a lot of sense when you think about it, right? Like,
Okay.
if you believe you're going to find love after getting a soulmate drawing, you might be more open to, I don't know, meeting new people or, more confident in your interactions.
Yeah, start putting yourself out there more.
And that could, like, actually increase your chances of finding someone special.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's wild.
It is.
So our beliefs and expectations really have a powerful influence on our actual reality.
They do. More than we realize, probably.
Yeah. And so even if we approach, soulmate drawings or anything really with a healthy dose of skepticism,
Right.
the act of engaging with them can still have a real like ripple effect on our lives.
I completely agree.
Wow, this is already giving me so much to think about.
I know, right?
I bet our listeners are feeling the same way.
Probably.
We've covered a lot of ground, but there's still so much more to explore.
Yeah, there really is.
So much more to unpack here.
Absolutely.
And I think, we're just getting started.
Just scratching the surface.
Yeah, just scratching the surface.
Yeah.
But we'll be back in just a moment to continue our deep dive into the world of soulmate drawings.
Sounds good. It's interesting how much our beliefs and expectations, they like really can shape our experiences. But let's get back to the drawings themselves for a moment, because even if they're not like, literal depictions of our soulmates,
Right.
I'm curious about what kind of information they like actually can reveal about us.
Yeah, I was actually reading through some like online forums about soulmate drawings.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just kind of like seeing what people were saying.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were saying that the drawings they got felt like incredibly accurate, even if they like couldn't explain exactly why.
Interesting.
It's almost like the artist was tapping into something like deep down that they hadn't like consciously realized about themselves.
That makes sense when you think about like the power of symbolism and metaphor.
Right.
Because those things, they can like bypass our conscious minds and speak directly to our like deeper emotions and desires.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, like a skilled, intuitive artist,
Yeah.
they might be able to like sense those underlying emotional currents.
Okay.
Those, I don't know, those things that we might be hiding from ourselves or haven't fully processed yet.
Yeah.
And translate those into a visual representation.
So it's like the drawing is holding up a mirror
Kind of, yeah.
to our like inner world. It's exactly.
Even if it's not like a literal reflection of our future partner or whatever.
Right.
And that process of self-discovery
Yeah.
can be like really powerful.
Absolutely. Even transformative in some cases.
Yeah, it can help us like understand ourselves better
For sure.
and clarify what we truly want in a relationship.
Yeah.
And even like, I don't know, shift our energy to attract those qualities into our lives.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's pretend for a second.
Okay.
If we were to go get soulmate drawings,
Right.
what do you think they might reveal about us?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Would they be like what we expect, or would they kind of surprise us?
That's the exciting part, right? It's like a journey of self-discovery.
Right.
And sometimes the most profound insights, they come from the unexpected.
Yeah.
Like, maybe your drawing is filled with like bright, vibrant colors,
Oh, yeah.
right? Which could suggest a desire for, I don't know, like passion and excitement in your love life.
Or maybe there are like recurring symbols of, let's say, water, indicating a need for emotional depth and connection.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's like a visual language
Right
for
on.
our souls.
Total.
But on a more serious note,
Yeah.
I'm also wondering about like the ethical side of all of this.
Yeah.
Because, the article touched on how important it is to find practitioners who are like transparent about their methods and don't like exploit people's vulnerability.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a huge responsibility that comes with this work, for sure.
Yeah.
Ethical practitioners, they approach it with integrity,
Yeah.
compassion.
Right.
They're, upfront about their process,
Yeah.
what they can offer, what they can't offer.
Right.
And unfortunately, like in any profession,
Yeah.
there are people who might try to take advantage of others.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially when it comes to like matters of the heart. It's such a sensitive area.
So how can someone like navigate this world safely and make sure they're like working with someone reputable?
Yeah, that's the big question.
What are some red flags to watch out for?
Well, it starts with doing your research.
Yeah.
Look for practitioners who are open about their process.
Okay.
Their, qualifications.
Yeah.
What they can and cannot offer.
Right.
Be wary of like anyone who makes like grand promises or guarantees specific outcomes.
Yeah.
Or pressures you into spending like more than you're comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
And here's a big one.
Okay.
If someone claims to be able to like remove curses or spells for a hefty fee,
Yeah.
that's a major red flag.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, steer clear.
And I think that's like such great advice. That applies to so many other areas of life too.
Right.
Not just like soulmate drawings. It's about like trusting your gut, being discerning, approaching things with like both an open mind and a healthy dose of skepticism.
I totally agree.
It's all about finding that balance, right?
Exactly.
Between curiosity and critical thinking,
Yeah.
intuition, logic.
For sure.
All of it.
All those things.
And always remembering that, like, we have the power to shape our own destinies.
We do.
No drawing, reading, external influence can take that away from us.
You got it.
This conversation has been so thought-provoking.
You know, right?
We've gone from emotional detectives to symbolic mirrors to, like, the power of belief.
It's been a wild ride.
It has. It's been quite a journey so far.
Yeah.
And it's a conversation that, honestly, could continue for hours.
Oh, definitely.
But we are, unfortunately, running out of time.
Yeah, we are.
But don't worry, listeners. We'll be back in a moment to wrap up our deep dive into the world of soulmate drawings.
This is good.
And we're back. And I don't know about you,
but
like, after all that, exploring the world of soulmate drawings, I'm feeling like both intrigued and maybe a little more introspective.
Right. About my own, relationship patterns.
Yeah, I think that's a natural response.
Yeah.
It's not every day that we get to like delve into this like intersection of intuition and art and self-discovery.
It's true. It's true.
It's a lot.
Okay, so let's do a super quick recap for our listeners.
Okay.
Who might have missed the first part of our deep dive.
Right.
We've talked about how soulmate drawings, they aren't like literal portraits of your future partner.
Right.
But rather they're more like symbolic representations of your, relationship desires.
Shape a course.
And patterns.
Yeah.
And we've explored how those drawings can kind of act as mirrors, reflecting back to us those aspects of ourselves that we might not be fully aware of.
It's true.
And we even touched on like the psychology behind it all.
Right.
How cold reading and the placebo effect can like play a role in how we perceive these practices.
Totally.
But even with a healthy dose of skepticism, I think the core message here is that soulmate drawings can be a really powerful tool for self-reflection and personal growth.
Absolutely. I think that's like the biggest takeaway.
So if our listeners out there are thinking to themselves, okay, this is all very interesting, but like, what does it all mean for me?
Right. Yeah.
What would you say to them?
That's a great question. And I think, I would encourage them to think back on what resonated with them during our conversation today.
Yeah.
What, I don't know, piqued their curiosity?
Right.
Was there a particular concept or idea that made them kind of pause and reflect on their own experiences?
Right, their own relationships, their own, yeah.
Exactly.
I love that because it's all about like empowering our listener to
Exactly.
like take ownership
That's the goal.
of their own journey.
Your own journey,
It's
yeah.
not about us telling them what to do
No, definitely not.
or what to think. It's about like
Giving them the tools.
giving them, yeah, the
Yeah,
information
the tools, the information.
and letting them come to their own conclusion.
Exactly. Whether
Yeah.
they decide to explore soulmate drawings or not.
Right.
I think the real magic happens when we start to kind of tune into our own intuition, cultivate self-awareness,
Absolutely.
and then make conscious choices
Yeah.
that align with our values and desires.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Wow, this has been such a fascinating deep dive.
Yeah.
I feel like we've covered like so much ground,
It's true, we have.
but I also feel like this is just the beginning
Yeah, just the tip of the iceberg.
of a much larger conversation.
I agree. There's always more to explore, I think,
Always.
especially when it comes to like understanding ourselves and the mysteries of, the human heart.
Oh, for sure.
So much to unpack there.
And on that note, I want to leave our listeners with a final kind of thought-provoking question to ponder, and maybe like journal about or just think about. If you could see a symbolic representation
Right.
of the kind of love that you're ready for,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
what might it look like?
I love that.
What colors, shapes, and emotions would it evoke?
Ooh, that's a beautiful image to hold in mind.
Yeah, I think so too.
And perhaps the answer lies not in like seeking it externally,
Right.
but in like looking within
Mm,
and allowing that vision to sort of emerge organically.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today
Of course. Thanks for having me.
on this deep dive into the world of soulmate drawings.
It's been fun.
And until next time,
Yeah.
keep exploring, keep questioning,
Keep learning.
and keep trusting your own inner compass.
Couldn't agree more.